Thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, I didn't know about any meetings like this until a month ago or so. So I'm really happy that this kind of things are happening, connecting the city of Delft with the Delft University of Technology. I already know a bunch of you, so it's really good to see you again. And for the people that I'm meeting now, I'm Zeki Erkin. I'm an assistant professor in the cybersecurity group, Delft University of Technology. This is a title we chose together, or a topic together with Lester, because smart wearables are being used everywhere, every day, and many people are buying those devices. I even have Fitbit for the same purposes to check my daily activities. And last week I was invited for a cardiology conference in Berlin. So I gave this talk there, 500 medical doctors, and they're really keen on using IT and combining smart wearables and smart devices to the healthcare system. So this topic is not only about research or futuristic research, it is happening right now, and we need to act now. So, some questions. Who has some smart wearables? 2. Anyone has smart scale at home? It's like 30 euros on Marktplatz. You can just buy it. There's Bluetooth. You can weigh yourself every day. Based on your gender, height, and the weight, there's these graphics. They are giving you suggestion about your fat ratio and BMI and so on. Yeah? Yeah, mine is smart, but it's not connected. So you don't make the connection with the app. Okay. Smart, that's good. But those are devices we are using at the moment, and everybody is using more and more often, especially this healthy life of having exercises every day, eating healthy, gluten-free eating. Those things are coming more and more often. I think I can skip this slide because Lester already explained very well. I'm teaching simple courses, crypto, blockchain engineering, and advanced crypto privacy enhancing technologies. Actually, my main research is really privacy. I define myself as an information security and privacy researcher, and privacy is my, let's say, ambition. Why? I will try to explain this in this talk. Those are the devices you can find online. And in the cardiology conference last week, there were so many private companies trying to sell those devices to you, to the medical doctors, so that they can give those to the patients. And those devices are getting much and much smaller, that scale, for example, for ECG detecting. It's really cool. It's attached to your skin, and you can really, 24 hours, 7 days, see your electrocardio signals. And they are cheap. They are not really expensive. They are also connected with your smartphone. You can also connect it to an app or a web-based application. Really cool. And this is actually a research conducted by my students. So all those things are thanks to Christian. I will show his face at the very end. And he did all those research, but apparently the growth in the smart wearables is huge. The numbers are amazing, from $14 billion to $34 billion in a couple of years. It's a significant amount of growth, and the number of medical wearables, those are the medical wearables, is increasing exponentially. It's good, really good. Why? You can really see your weight on a daily basis. Christian is very stable. This is his own weight during the master thesis. And what can you do with those smart wearables? You can also see your step counts. And this is his step count on a daily basis. And what you see here, he's only walking during lunchtime. That's good for a master student. So it means he's working all the time. But this is really cool. It gives you a really clear idea about your body activities. So that's good. I really like it. And this is the ambition. What you see here is that all those smart wearables connected with your smart devices, either your tablet, your phone, your laptop, it should be connected to the cloud and your medical doctor. Why? It is easy for the medical doctors to monitor you from distance. You don't need to make an appointment to go to the hospital in Leiden to measure your blood pressure, especially for patients after an operation, or elderly people, or people with certain diseases. They need to go to the hospital on a weekly basis or monthly basis. First of all, this is expensive because they need to travel, maybe take half a day off, or the time of the medical doctor is very valuable. For a 5-minute check, you need to spend a lot of resources. So this is the future, medical e-health. Everything will be connected to the cloud, and cloud will be connected to the medical hospitals. They already started in Leiden, the Box project. I can explain that to you, yeah?
The ideal world, why is it an ideal world? For commercial parties, this is an ideal world because probably they own and operate the cloud. The cloud isn't really necessary, in my opinion. You can also have a direct connection to the hospital.
That's a really good question. Any answers? Why do we need cloud?
Well, it's easier, I think, and you can encrypt the data so that it cannot be read in the cloud.
That's a good one, really good one. But your point is, well, cloud is seen as a company here, I guess, but it's actually some kind of a storage environment that you can globally reach. You can create a cloud for hospitals managed by government or Ministry of Health, that's also possible, or you can use Amazon Cloud. The problem is it should be separated from the hospitals, because possibly you are going to the hospital in Delft. But what if you go to another location? Can you also bring the data with you? That's the problem. So if you have a cloud environment, everything can be connected and you can use and have access directly to your data wherever you are during your holidays. But real reason why we are not directly connected to the hospital is something else. What kind of people do we have at hospitals? Medical doctors, nurses, patient carers, people taking care of medicines, drugs, pharmacists, but they are not IT experts. Most of the time, the IT-related stuff in hospital environments are really decades old. They are not up to date. Most of the medical records are still being stored in CD-ROMs, USB sticks, and they are forgotten on a table. So IT and medical people, they have a difficulty to communicate. For example, medical doctors want to use encryption for storing the data in the encrypted form, but they don't want to remember passwords. So how can you convince people to use encryption if they don't want to use a simple password? But this is the aim. It is good for industry because they will sell services, but it's also good for the medical people. They can directly access to the data whenever they want. That's really good, but we have some problems. Security problems, privacy problems. And in this talk, I want to talk about the privacy issues, because medical data is so sensitive. And in the current system, you buy a wearable, connected to your app, connected to your laptop, and it's connected to cloud, and the cloud is just a data storage system for the vendor of the device. And all your data is being stored in the cloud under the control of a company that you don't know, maybe by name. Is it in the Netherlands, the storage units? Is it in European Union? Is it in Asia? United States? We have no idea. Who says yes? Why do you think it's in the United States?
The biggest cloud providers are American.
Yes, but their data storage facilities are mostly in Asia, India, and so on.
But then we have the discussion on the laws apply.
Yes.
The data is located or the company who operates.
Yeah. Yet another point, jurisdiction. if something happens, who has the right to check the, well, let's say, security of the systems or so? Is it European Union or American laws, or is it some kind of international? There are so many problems, and as you know, we have the new regulation being effective on the 5th of May, the GDPR, right? And companies are now freaking out because privacy now will bite you. Why? Because if you lose data, privacy-related data, the company will pay a penalty of 4% of their annual turnover. It's a huge amount of money. So this is good for privacy protection, but at the moment there are so many problems. Have you seen this before? This is not directly related to smart wearables, but I want to show this because this is so scary, but even though my friends are using these services. This is 23andMe. It's really difficult to read, but it's an American company selling you their services. I think for 99 it was, but now it's even cheaper, 49. And there's a family reduction as well for Thanksgiving. You pay that amount, they send you a kit, you give some kind of personal saliva or so, send it back to America, it is analyzed and your DNA string is extracted, sequenced. It's very cheap. But the thing is they give you some feedback saying that the potential of you having this disease is that much. The science behind is very debatable, but they are collecting millions of people's DNA. And it's estimated that this will be even cheaper and cheaper in 5 to 10 years' time, a couple of dollars. Even you can buy some devices to sequence your own DNA, or companies will do that. It's not a smart wearable, but it will be also a small device available to everyone to use. It's scary for me. Now the questions, okay. Medical domain needs IT, especially automation of the healthcare. Smart wearables can be used for the well-being of people, citizens. It will be also cost-effective. It will reduce the cost significantly because you don't need to go back and forth between the hospital and your home. But there are some problems. First of all, what is medical data? Your step count, is it medical data or not? Yeah, this is a question actually for everyone. It could be. Your ECG is definitely a medical data. What about your weight? Is it medical or not? Blood pressure, sugar level. Those are the devices you can buy really with a couple of bucks and you can use them on a daily basis. But the question is it medical data or not? If it's not medical data, we have a problem. If it is a medical data, then we have also a problem because according to the rules, you cannot store or process medical data if you're not a medical institution or a research facility. So all those companies like Fitbit and this and that, they are storing medical data or not? This is the debate. I don't know, what do you think? Is it medical data? Yeah. You think?
I think the question is more what they do with the data. I think if you open a lot, if you open a lot of the dashboards like Fitbit, Garmin, they always have a disclaimer saying that the data shown there is purely indicative and is not a measure of your health or anything, and you should take your own opinion on whatever is being displayed there. And if you have doubts, you have to go to the doctor. So they're not allowed to do deep analysis of the data. So I think that's how they kind of protect themselves from this debate. So they just show you like general gist of what you're doing, but they don't present it as medical data.
That's true. That's why I have a follow-up question. Do you want to share it with your company, any company? Well, Fitbit, for example, or whatever you use, Apple Watch collects all this data.
Then I guess you're agreeing to doing that when you buy the device.
It is debatable. If you want to use the device, does it mean that you automatically agree to upload your data to the cloud and they can do whatever they want? Because you cannot check what they are doing with your data.
Well, as an informed consumer, you would say that if you buy the device, you know that this data will be uploaded and only
Yes.
then will it will be viewable.
But everybody knows that?
I
And
don't think
if
so.
you know that, do you agree on that? Because I will come to that point. The smart wearables are very useful, but they are also very stupid in the sense that there's no security protection whatsoever. There's no PIN code to unlock your Fitbit device. If it gets stolen, the data will be extracted easily, but that's a security problem. But the problem is, what is the chance of a medical data or those kind of data being hacked in the cloud? Because we know that security by design is most of the time just a story. They don't deploy security or privacy whatsoever. They release databases, hacked, breached, and imagine that millions of people's medical health-related activities are released or being publicly available. What will happen? Actually, again, you don't see. This is from my Fitbit. It shows the route of my running with GPS installed. It shows on the app the route I'm using for my running sessions. It looks really cool because it gives me so much feedback, but at the same time, it's so scary. Someone can track my activities, time, location, duration. The risk is huge. If this data is stolen or obtained by some malicious entities, it will be really dangerous. There are problems in the Ehealth system. There are, first of all, those medical wearables we are using, they don't have a common standard to upload the data or share data. That's one. On top of that, the providers, they have disclaimers not to abuse or misuse your data, but if you read between lines, they have the right to process your data for the services. That's the problem, because we don't know what services they mean. That's the loophole for the legal people, because if they define the purpose of data processing, they can bypass any regulation. They can do analytics, but what kind of analytics? They can do advertisements. Would you like to do that? Maybe it's good for you to hear about new devices available, but it is only not used for those kind of advertisements. They can share that with other parties, with or without your consent. And they can also sell to third parties. And what if the company gets bankrupt? It happens, right, in IT domain. What happens to the data? What do you think they do with the data? Huge amount of data. Delete them? Yes, they will try to sell that data. And you have no control for that. So this was the first part. Now I'm going a little bit to the technical domain. Don't worry, there's no crypto whatsoever, but it's pure crypto. This is actually what is happening right now in the Netherlands. Do you know this system? What is LSP? Anyone knows? Come on, you're Dutch. Yes, landelijk schakelpunt. Yeah. So actually, it was a big problem in the past that these medical data were not shared or there was no digital system, so they came up with a design, but it's not mandatory. You can just use this. So there's this LSP having the servers, storage, and there are doctors and pharmacies connected, and they ask the patient, hey, do you want to share your data with this doctor and pharmacy? Most of the time, they ask you who's your GP and who's your pharmacist, right? Two people, so they can access your data. So this is how it works at the moment in the Netherlands. Do you see a problem? I really like interaction, so yeah.
Well, the actual data is not owned by the patient, but is owned by the LSP, or by the owner of the LSP.
Yeah. The problem is this is a central authority, LSP, collecting all type of medical data. They store it. On top of that, patient has no idea about the data itself. It just gives the right to the doctor 1 or pharmacy 2. It's a single point of failure. If you know about security, we don't like this kind of central authorities because they can be hacked or, well, interesting things can happen. So what happens, or what are the problems? Patients do not have access to the data. And centralized systems always a problematic issue. And at the moment, actually, there's a scalability issue as well, because they need to deal with every patient, every medical doctor, every pharmacy. Having a central authority like that and scaling it up is difficult and expensive. And security is not also very well designed. So this is a design proposed by people from Nijmegen. Yeah.
The previous slide with the EPD, well, the LSP was that at first we had a question asked, do you want an EPD centralized or not?
Yeah.
The common vote was, no, we don't want that.
Yes.
Then for a short time, we didn't hear anything about it. Then they started with localized EPDs. Yes. And now you have this system, and it is unclear what they do, what is registered, and it's unclear if there's any monitoring on it.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, it's not mandatory, but at the moment, 80% of the whole pharmacies and medical doctors are using this system. It's kind of de facto system. There are some details, because in order to be participating in this system, you should have a server, local server. So when you are connected to the LSP, this data is transferred directly to your local server. But the communication is also not encrypted. So I'm serious. So there are serious problems you mentioned. Of course, I really like this country. Privacy is so important. But it was rejected to be mandatory, but the de facto system is not secure and it's horrible. So I know, I hear you. But together with patient data, access control, security, plus connecting this with smart wearables and being able to use it in the cloud, we need a different system. So all in all, we want to have medical data available. We want to help the doctors with the smart wearable data, and it should be also connected to the cloud. So Nijmegen came up with a system. It's called polymorphic encryption. And they define the LSP in a different way. Transcriptor, and the transcriptor is a semi-trusted entity that does the heavy work of encryption. The encryption is a very special way of doing this. Patients, they see their data, and they encrypt it using a specific crypto system, and the transcriptor is modifying this encryption over and over again, and the encrypted version will be kept in the cloud. The transcriptor's role is breaking the link between the patient and the data, and every time a doctor or pharmacist wants to access the same data, a different key is given to those entities. And from outside, from the perspective of cloud servers or so, they don't have any idea who's accessing what part of the data. It's a huge amount of encrypted data. Someone is accessing a portion of it, but you have no idea who's accessing and which part they are accessing. It's a really beautiful system. Security by design, privacy by design. There's this nice connection with smart wearables and cloud, but there's a problem. Again. Oh, we will come to that point. But it's a technical problem. We still have the transcriptor, the central authority. The most critical comment on this work was, you are deploying a system for the whole nation, for the whole Europe, whatever, but you're introducing a single entity with so much power. Transcriptor is the entity that changes the decryption keys using this polymorphic, homomorphic systems, encryption systems, but he knows everything. Everything about the connected people, the wearables, the patients, so it is so much power. So this is dangerous. So my student, Christian, came up with a brilliant idea. Sorry? Oh, no, not yet. Next year, maybe you. He came up with the idea of distributing trust. So, you know, if there's a central authority, what we do is just distribute the trust. Instead of one transcriptor, you can use and descriptors. Those are 5 in this example. And you introduce a scheme saying that in order to perform the same operations on the data for encryption, decryption, or breaking the link for anonymization, a coalition of those transcriptors should combine their forces. So imagine that there are 5 transcriptors, maybe 5 different organizations in 5 different locations in the Netherlands. And in order to have this data access, 3 of them needs to agree. If there are 2 of them, it won't work. So this is good because it's also distributed trust plus resistance to those type of attacks. Because if you have 10 entities and you need only 5 of them, and the adversary cannot attack 10 of those transcriptors all at the same time. So it is also good for network attacks. So this is good. But he also improved the system further with an access mechanism. This is not in PEP at the moment. The idea is that the access structure is 0 or 1. So Alice can see my data or not. Bob can see my data or not. But in real life, especially after talking with the doctors in Leiden, we saw that there should be a pattern, access pattern for it. Different type of data, there will be different rules. First of all, patients should see his or her own data. That's given. But on top of that, only an authorized person together with a cardiologist can see the data. You can define a rule like this. Or the same person, authorized person, together with a pharmacist should see the data. This kind of beautiful access control structure can be introduced. And this will give a huge power to the owner of the data, the patient, in such a way that even if you are using smart wearables, and even the data is collected and stored in the cloud, you will have the power to control who can see your data. If they want to process your data for analytics, statistics, or advertisement, they need your permission. So this is really, really good. And it's possible. It's feasible. We can do that. So those are the values. There's no central authority. We can introduce access control. We can monitor who can see or who's observing, processing, accessing my data or not. It's also scalable. Then the question is that, if we have solutions, why are we not using those? One was yours, right? What did you say exactly?
Well, yeah, nobody's going to pay for it. But
yeah, who's going to pay for this?
so the systems that are now in use for smart wearables, so then the data is owned by the companies, and they can extract the value from it and money.
Yeah.
And if they cannot do that, then there's no incentive for them to make this kind of system.
Yeah. Who's going to pay for this is a very strong argument. And actually, this is the discussion I want to have with you because, well, we are the people using this. We have a solution, but no one is deploying those solutions. Why? And one argument is, who's going to pay for it? Shall we pay for it as patients? Yeah, I see that.
I think there are 2 other problems. One is most people don't care, which is quite sad. And the other thing is I'm a decision maker, and if this is into consideration on implementing it, yes or no. Why should I? I don't understand this. So that's fine.
That's a really good point. If they don't understand why or what we are doing, yeah, that's a really good point. Who cares about privacy? Really? Are you going to pay for it?
Yes.
No, no, no.
We're going to pay for not caring about privacy.
Oh, okay. Well, there was a study on Facebook, not on Facebook, but about Facebook. If there was a privacy-preserving version of Facebook, how much would you pay? How much? 0, okay. No, it's higher than that. People are willing to pay 50 cents for a privacy-preserving version of Facebook, which is kind of nothing. So actually, you're really right. We have some issues. First of all, industry likes raw plain text data because they want to have those values, those signals, this medical data, profile data, to process it for other services. So they do crazy things. Most of them are good, really nice, right? But there's a huge problem about discrimination. People don't care about privacy. This is really, really, really true. Whenever I give a talk about privacy, everybody says that's cool, but after 5 minutes, they don't care. They will post the location of this place on Facebook. Everybody knows that I'm here. My place is empty. I don't know. You know, nobody cares about privacy, especially in the field of medical medicine. You have a medical implant. It's a radio communication, okay? And there's no security whatsoever. I can really program something very simple to send the command stop. And 1 meter away from you, I'm passing by, and I can stop your medical implant, stopping your heart. There's no security. There are secure options, secure communication protocols, but they see that in an emergency case, no one will initiate a cryptographic protocol because I want to leave. I don't care about security. It's also true for privacy. Nobody cares. People, most of the time, when we talk about privacy, it's an issue for a single person. And if something happens, I will just pay him off. They think that it is not for masses. But this is wrong, because this will be a widespread discrimination in the very near future. That's the point why we are focusing so much on information security and privacy in Delft. Discrimination in masses, and you cannot even prove that because your Facebook pictures reveals that you're drinking too much. Possibly you're not suitable for this kind of job. You are not walking 10,000 steps every day. Maybe you should pay more for your insurance, right? For your travels, you went to South America or this country or that country. There are some cases of malaria or Zika virus. Maybe it's not a good idea to employ you here or there. Discrimination will be happening, and I hope some of you have seen the movie Gattaca. Anyone? No. Really? We need to talk. Okay. The others? Gattaca is a movie from 1997 about discrimination based on DNA data. So every company processes your DNA, and based on that you are, every baby is engineered by DNA sequencing. So everybody is perfect, tall, athletic, smart, blue eyes, and I don't know what. And if you're a normal human, born in a normal way, you're discriminated. You cannot find a job. You cannot find a partner or so. So please watch it if you want to see what I mean. But even without DNA data, the digital data from smart wearables, from your browsers, will be used for discrimination. It's already happening. You just don't realize that. Did you know that women are offered the same job but with lower salaries? Or if you are booking a hotel room using a Mac rather than a Windows machine, you pay more? It's true. The same hotel, same room, MacBook gives you more higher things.
That's not true in the Netherlands. We have a law against this because we also had the same thing with flights. If you keep checking the same flights over and over, the price increases.
Yeah.
If you use a different IP, then the price goes to a normal price again. And also they did geotagging, where like if a lot of people in your city search for the same type of flights or the same destination, they increase the price locally. But then this was disallowed in the Netherlands. But in the US, they still use this.
As of when?
It was a few years ago now.
Okay, let's check that. But it's happening globally. Yeah. So this is what I want to say. Smart wearables are really good, cost-effective. It will be really helping the whole society, especially when we are aging very fast. But discrimination is around the corner. And with this, I need to thank you for your patience. And this is Christian, the hard work by him. Thank you very much.
No, we're not going to let you escape quite yet, I suspect, because I'm sure that there must be some burning questions still in the room. I think I spotted one.
Well, in the mechanism they designed at Nijmegen, there was the thing that everything has to happen with permission of patient A. For example, access wearable data, but you kind of now already give the authorization by buying the device and accepting to the terms and agreements of using it. How would that be any different? Because now within the new system, I buy a Fitbit, and they say, if you want to use this Fitbit and connect to the transcriptor, you also have to be okay with the fact that you authorize us to use your data. So does it really solve the problem, or is it just shifting it? That's
very good and tough question. This is a solution for solving our problems with security and privacy-related issues in medical wearables, right? And one very strong component is this thing. What you're suggesting is the smart wearable vendors. You need to convince them to use your system. How would you convince them?
there has to be some kind of incentive for them. So, like,
yes, what is that incentive? If you find that, you will be very rich. Because at the moment, they want raw data, they want full control, and there's no money for privacy. There's one maybe point we can use to convince them, which is the GDPR. If they say that this is a better system than the current one, we can convince them. So that's why we are a little bit hopeful about 5th of May. We shall see, but without these vendors, we cannot do anything. So they should be willing, but is it going to be from bottom to top or top to bottom? Maybe the legislation will force them to do that.
Yeah, the continuation of this topic. So what's the incentive for a wearable company? Well, in a free market economy, an incentive would be to lose out on the market share. I mean, there's two ways of doing it. Either you provide a feature that nobody else does, and that's an incentive for the consumer to buy your product, or the other way, there's a deterrent to buying your product because it doesn't support it. So if we have laws against the analysis of data, if you could enforce that even a bit further, then you could say, well, through a transcriptor and through the doctors and the pharmacy or something, they could have a third-party analytics solution, or even a third-party consumer company that does the analytics. Yep. And then once you connect the wearable to the transcriptor and everything, you have access to that data on your dashboard.
That's true. This is not a problem only for Delft or the Netherlands. This is a European problem. Because at the moment, all the companies are from other countries or other continents, mostly American. And the thing is, yeah, it's a free market. What if you have a system like this with vendors willing to participate, and it will be like a stamp on it saying that privacy sensitive, privacy enhanced something? Will it be good for the economy, a new company? A secure and private, privacy-preserving system. So this is a discussion on European level, saying that maybe this will give an advantage to European Union in terms of, new companies in IT domain. But for that, you need to convince people to use this kind of devices. So it is really complicated. There are economical and political aspects. So in privacy research, there are 3 components, if I may. The first one is raising awareness, saying that privacy is an issue. The second one is legislation. You should really protect people if they cannot protect themselves. And the third one is the scientific solutions. If you really want to protect yourself and there's these rules, there should be a way to protect your data. So without those 3 legs, you cannot do anything.
I mean, if there's enough awareness, but people just don't care, they don't value it, then you can have the legislation, you can have all the other things, but it's just not going to happen. That's kind of the current situation. People usually kind of know that it's getting scary in terms of what's possible already and what's happening already, but eventually they just don't care and don't think about it.
Then we cannot do anything, right? So that's why you need to teach and train the youngsters. So that's why they want to deploy security courses in primary school.
But so what if teaching and training the youngsters, as you say, does create awareness but does not create value or interest in this solution? What if people legitimately don't care overall? Because that's what it seems like to me.
Then we deserve discrimination. So you will be unemployed because you drink too much or you're fat.
Right, but then the question becomes, so if that is the outcome, is that a problem then?
Oh, okay.
If that is a result of the human condition, let's say, then, you know...
Then what are you going to do if you're discriminated? Because of your something.
You have to accept it and you know,
really?
fight it in a different way. Well,
oh my God.
That's what it tends to become. If that is if creating awareness does not actually help create affected value amongst people, then what's the point?
There's no other way. We need to try. Yeah. Otherwise, you lose the match from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. I think there's also the issue that people are only in favor of convenience on one side, and the other side is that regardless how good your platform is, if there is already a platform which is widespread, it's very hard as a newcomer to the market to enter that market. So for instance, if you take Amazon and they want to sell you for little money a device which has 5 microphones in it, which is 24/7 running,
yeah,
because that's so convenient for you and for them.
I know. My God, it's a really hot topic. It's my research topic for the last decade. Have you seen the series Black Mirror? Yes. Don't you get scared? Yes, but don't you think that we are living in the era of like just like 1984, the book? Exactly. So that's my problem. Oh, okay. Yes.
I think the problem here is that we live in a luxurious situation where we do not have any malicious governments, and we are like all. No, but that's a problem.
That's true. That's true.
Like for our case, we are probably all a bit upper class, highly educated. Apparently, also, why we are none of the minorities that actually have real problems with it, and so for us, it's less of a threat to us than other people. So I think that's also coming back on the awareness. I think we are aware of what it could be to us, but it's not to us. And I think actually it's nice to think about the people for who would be a threat.
Well, I really like what you say, because I'm Turkish, and at the moment the Turkish government is blocking Wikipedia. Twitter is slowed down. They are checking the communication. Every opposition group is oppressed. And it's not a place you want to live. All my friends, they are trying to find a job abroad, so they are feeling away.
That's exactly what I mean by the point. Like all the people who can make this technological change,
yes,
they don't really have the urge to do it, and the people who really need it, they are not in the place to actually push this kind of thing. So we should do it because the people who actually need it won't be able to do it.
Do you know the Syrian or Egyptian government, what kind of devices they are using to suppress internet? Siemens routers. Routers produced in Europe. Of course, when you design the system, you don't think that it will be used for censoring, right? But then you sell a bunch of them to the Syrian government, and they use this to control their population. So this is a thing, the awareness. And what you're saying is true. We don't have a problem like this, but what you are doing right now, or here, has a huge effect in the whole thing. Trust is essential. Without trust, you cannot have laws, and without laws, you don't have democracy. So those are all connected. And if we give up on one thing, and I think privacy is I think according to the European Union, privacy is a human right. Not in the States, but in European Union, well. So it's a human right, so we need to protect it. And raising awareness, we cannot give up. Yeah.
So I would compare the awareness situation as to when you tell someone who is smoking that smoking is bad. Because, you know, we tell everyone that the way Facebook handles your data, that it's bad, but it doesn't exactly want us to change because just like smoking, I know that it's bad, but maybe I still want to continue because it's so much easier for myself. So I guess we are making it very aware that it's a bad thing, but we need to be there, you know, when things go wrong. Or, yeah, we need to be more clear about it. We need to educate more. And I had a little bit of another question about this thing. There was this thing, maybe more of a smart ingestible than a smart wearable, and it's called a smart pill. Yeah. It's where doctors can actually see if mental patients take their medication. So, you know, people who are schizophrenic, sometimes they don't take it, and that way they can see if they took it. Do you think that fits in such a system, or is it hard because these things are temporary instead of permanent, like more something you stick with, like a wearable?
Well, I don't know that system. I think they are also very simple. It should be digested, right? So I don't know how they are communicating with the doctor. So it's a smart pill.
I guess it's connected to your smartphone and then it sends it. But the thing is, it's much more temporary than a wearable, because I guess you just in the end it comes out and then you leave it.
Okay. It is kind of interesting because I do know that in the Netherlands, this the organization for Rijkswaterstaat or so, the sewage thingy, they can identify how many people are living per house, if there are pregnant people or if there are sick people, what kind of medicine they are using by just analyzing your sewage, and it's really easy to that. On top of that, you're introducing smart pills. It's scary for me, but it should be at least a secure connection with the pill application and the application to the doctor. At least the contents should be protected against third parties. But I really don't know how the system works. But this will be a little bit complicated for a very limited device like a pill. This is pure crypto running heavy computations. So I don't think a limited device like an RFID tag or so can do that.
So you showed your enthusiasm for several of these devices in the beginning. So now my question is for you, it's a kind of personal question. What do you choose? Convenience or privacy?
Oh, well, really good one. There's a study, I saw the results last week in Germany. Apparently Fitbit users, they stop using it in 2 years. So for that, it's good. For my smart scale, you don't make the connection with the Bluetooth, so that saves a lot of things. So everything stays in the scale and there's no communication. So this is what you suggested. If you are not connected to smart cloud, then you're fine. This is the only way at the moment because those are the given things that we can buy. So trade-off between privacy, security, and usability. That's really true. But I'm not using Fitbit anymore because the GPS thing is so scary.
So, as an advocate of privacy, and especially privacy in this whole sector, how do we combat the Facebook model of privacy erosion, where they take 10 steps forward and then, in the heat of things, 2 steps backwards, and then everyone goes like, "Yay, we achieved more privacy," but didn't realize that they took actually 8 steps. You know. For example, with the face recognition thing, they did automatic face recognition and tagging of everyone, and that was like super not okay, and now they're still doing it, but just not showing it to you, and that's completely okay, because, you know. Right. Oops. So, this is difficult, and the second tag-on question, isn't the whole definition of what consists privacy also shifting? Where I see, when I ask people, like in terms of awareness, if I ask people, so what do you consider privacy? When is it a problem, right? And then what I often get as an answer is that the privacy factor of big companies or big pharma or like the governments and those things, they don't really care too much about those because it's too far away from them. But what they really care about is privacy amongst their peers. right? So that tagging not showing up on your friend's Facebook page because that is bad. Like that Facebook knows, they don't care because it's Facebook, right? Like they're not going to do anything bad. So like the whole privacy shift is more of a personal privacy in your own personal circle of peers instead of a more essential, basic form of privacy where it is like you're central and that's it.
Well, two really good points. The first one, I have no answer because they have so much power, they know you better than you, right? They have projects to use microphones for speech enhancement, which can be also used for, well, spying any place. Because at the moment, I think we have at least one smartphone per person, right? Microphones are open. There's a prediction in the very near future there will be a bunch of companies much more powerful than any nation-level government, including states. Together with Germany, they cannot be as powerful as Amazon or Google or Facebook. Even in the field of research, all the research institutions, including MIT and ETH Zurich or Cambridge, they are falling behind because Google has this huge computational power, huge resources. Anything you can do at a university, they can do 10,000 times much faster and more efficient in a blink of eye, and they are dominating the whole research field. It's also true for Amazon. It's also true for Facebook. So the only thing is we need to fight back, saying that this is important, maybe stop using this, or come up with a privacy-preserving version or a secure version of a services, and hoping that the people will start using it. So Bitcoin is one of the success stories for decentralized systems, but sadly it is successful because criminals were using it. So it is, you know, it's a really difficult, tough thing. And privacy, I really love it, but you cannot sell it because, as you said, everybody thinks it's important, but it's only personal connection, trust, face-to-face, and nobody wants to pay for it. So I am switching to security because privacy doesn't pay off. Maybe with the GDPR we have a step forwards in Europe, but we shall see. I'm really curious what will happen, because if they find a loophole in the regulation, then they won't pay anything for any kind of leakage or privacy protection. I really don't know. We are also thinking about those things. But again, training, awareness, and some solutions. We will be ready when they want a solution like that. That's the thing.
And on the second thing about more personal privacy within your own career circle instead of zero privacy?
What is the question there?
Well, what do you think about that?
Decentralized systems. Decentralized systems. Everybody thinks that Bitcoin is a hype, but actually Bitcoin might be a hype, but the blockchain itself is a very magical tool. Magical in the sense that it's beautiful. Not that we don't know how to use it, but decentralized systems, I think it will be the key point to change the whole society. Because you distribute the trust to people, and if the majority of the people are honest, the system will be running. And I hope there are like more than half of us honest enough here. Yeah, I know some of you.
Curious about that, because I heard the word blockchain before someone was muttering it under their breath. But as I understand it, blockchain offers availability, authenticity, integrity, but the C, the confidentiality, is not natively. Has that been solved? Is that a viable solution?
Ethereum people are putting encryption more and more. I think they released something 2 weeks ago to put encrypted data and to introduce some kind of security for smart contracts. We are not there yet, but we also know how to do that. It will be a little bit more complicated and expensive, because from the crypto you will know that those technologies do exist. And with blockchain, the funny thing is people are looking into papers that were written 30 years ago. I'm serious. All those things are coming back to life. 30 years ago, they were published in a journal and forgotten, never considered for real deployment. And now with blockchain, they say, oh, 30 years ago we did this. It's very suitable for blockchain. So it's really strange, but it's happening. So I'm very optimistic. The only thing is we need a success story for blockchain other than Bitcoin. That's the only thing. I think it will happen in 2018. We will see the first useful, publicly available, practical blockchain application, and I think it will be speeding up after that point. Yeah.
Do we have any other burning questions, desires, requests, or otherwise? I think we have a final remark.
If you use encryption for this medical system, that can save the hospitals or nationally costs of the medical care. So it could be interesting still to invest in encryption, I hope.
Yeah. This version, I think in Nijmegen they are trying to implement. They want to really deploy this and test it, maybe without wearables and cloud. They want to use it for the whole network.
Yeah.
So they are really implementing. I think they have a deadline by the end of this year, because this is a white paper published last year. I think they are also in touch with the Ministry of Healthcare and the government to at least test this.
But just in the Netherlands, or
if it's
Europe.
successful, it can scale really up fast. But you just need to test and deploy and see what you can do with it.
Well, as it turns out, there was a penultimate question, because this will be the final one, I suspect.
Have there been any thoughts about when you have multiple transcriptors, instead of having 5, employing actually a blockchain kind of system where every hospital has some kind of transcriptor? Because the calculations of continuously recoding the hashes, where you could say that based on the amount of data you get from it, you also have to contribute so much to it. So where you could say that if you are a hospital utilizing this data, you also have to contribute it by continuously transcoding the data.
Are you looking for a master thesis?
Eventually.
Yeah. There are things, but it's all about manpower.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we leave, please do feel free to continue the conversation downstairs. I believe the bar is open. So anyone looking for a master thesis? Next month, I believe on the 20th of December, hopefully we'll be talking more about the blockchain, so highly recommended. Keep an eye on website, Facebook, and all the other various channels that we have. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the interaction, for the discussion, but most of all, thank you, Zeki, for a wonderful presentation. Please, warm thank you.
Well.